Greetings, Clausewitz here. So this is a response video to Shad from Shadiversity, and it's about his video about the question, did the knight existed before the medieval period? So when I watched his video, which was some time ago because it's now some days old and stuff, the thing is, I just saw that you made some mistakes, I would call it, or that I have a different understanding of certain aspects for how you would define a knight. And this is basically I want to respond to, not necessarily say this is completely wrong what you're saying, we should do this, more of raising questions, more of starting a discussion and pointing out some mistakes you made, which I would say then in the end the whole thing doesn't make sense anymore, without claiming I have a much better system here. But like I said, it's more about raising questions, more about correcting aspects or arguing that certain aspects should be corrected. And the thing is, before somebody gets this not right, I really love Shad. So in the sense of, I think he makes great content, great videos. He is actually responsible for the thing that I have subscribers at all, basically. But of course, you disagree with certain aspects, even though you like each other. So this is not as an attack against Shad. I'm not saying, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I actually think he does often great research, but just in this subject and also in the video which is about like the medieval period, I think he just get things wrong. So let us start. So like I said, it is about the question if the knight existed before the medieval period. And Shad, to prove that this isn't the case, set up a definition for a knight. And which is, I think, is a great approach, because it's very important, because often people just say, just like describe very loosely their understanding of something and then claiming that this isn't there and isn't there, but it's clear here and so on, right? But Shad actually tried to really put on a definition which is applicable and differentiates the knight from other things. But I actually think a definition doesn't work. And first of all, you said, as part of the definition, as I understood correctly, that the knight is always part of the upper class or the social elite, either way because he is really part of the social elite, or he is associated with them because he's sworn an oath to a lord. So the first thing here is, I can agree with that basically. I don't see something wrong with it, but I would say this can be applied to many types of soldiers. For example, the soldiers in the legion in the Roman Empire and Roman Republic were basically also part of the social elite. Some of them really came from the social elite, like the equites or even the principes, if I remember correctly, or the Trerari. So they came directly from the social elite, but basically all the soldiers in the legion had the duty to do the bidding of the Senate, to apply orders. So the thing is, this isn't different from being associated through an oath with a higher lord, from a soldier which is bound by law to serve the elite. Basically, the Senate or the emperor could or the commander, which were part of the social class, could direct the soldier had to follow him. So basically this is association, they are bound by law, by an oath, what system you want to call it. So this is the same thing, and this could be applied to many places, many different cultures. And this is why I think this is already flawed, to really put it in this context here. If you would say they have to be really come from the social elite, it would work better, but would be still applicable for like the equites. But just pointing out what doesn't work here. So then you showed us in your picture, in your frame, that your final definition, as I understood it, that the knight was a full-time soldier sworn to a higher lord and chivalry. You also said that the higher lord could also be a knight. And this is also where I think you made another big mistake, because you stated he is a full-time soldier. But how can a lord be a full-time soldier? He is basically a lord who has to administrate a big piece of land. Okay, a count maybe not such a big land as a duke, but you get what I mean. A king, a duke, a count, whatever, a baron, they all had to administrate lands and infrastructure and military components. So basically, this is what they couldn't be a full-time soldier for that. And I clearly agree that there was like this full-time soldier knight who would train when there isn't a war or a campaign, who would organize the military, maybe train like lesser military units, who would maintain the security in the castle, would maintain the horses, or would see over the maintenance of the horses, who would see over the supply, the weaponry and all of this stuff. So and to maintain the whole military infrastructure, therefore what like a full-time soldier does. But this can't be including lords. This is what my point is here, because they already have like a job which is very demanding. So either way, this is changed to part-time soldier, or you exclude lords out of here. Like I said, I'm not sure which is better. I'm just pointing out it doesn't work in itself here. So now another thing, I already mentioned the whole sworn to a higher lord thing, because this is not I mentioned it completely actually, not, I mentioned like this is similarly to bound by law, to bound by religions or whatever. The thing is just, this is similar concepts in Rome or in the Macedonian Empire or in Persia. They just call differently. Maybe they have a different premise on why you should oblige at the end. But the point is that in the end you have the duty to oblige orders or to serve somebody. It doesn't matter if it's an oath, it doesn't matter if it's a higher lord, it doesn't matter if it's meant by law, it doesn't matter if it's defined by your morals, it doesn't matter if it's defined by your religion. So in the end it's the same function. And the next big thing is here that this is also something, nothing which is not very unique of in a feudal system. Basically in a feudal system everybody swears an oath to serve a higher lord. And you maybe not have people who are sworn to you, but you in the end will be sworn to some lord over you. It doesn't matter if it's just a very low noble. And the whole serf system is typical feudalism. And so the peasants were sworn to somebody, even if it was somebody inside their own peasant social class. But in the end, those were sworn to like somebody in the next class, and basically the kings and emperors were sworn to God. And which give them kind of big freedom. But the thing is that you have to keep in mind this is nothing unique for for feudalism. And this is very important when you mentioned later on the Norman knights, where you were saying they were basically not the knight after your definition, because I say they basically were. They were soldiers, doesn't matter now part-time or full-time. They were sworn to a higher lord, they had to be loyal, and what was the next thing? I think I got it all. And they were associated with the elite. So basically, yeah, it is true. It's the same is true like for the equites, who's also bound by law, by his duties as a citizen, as a high-end citizen, or as part of like the noble class of the citizens, to be an horseman. And this is why I said this doesn't work again, not really well, because it's nothing unique in feudalism. So even the knights you excluded, which were clearly part of a feudal system, or the people you excluded, which are really part of a feudal system, they still count for this. And like I said, it's a very similar system we found everywhere, doesn't matter how it's called or described. And so the next big thing is your chivalry aspect. You had this really awesome video about chivalry, where I say this was really great and really on point. I mean, the things I disagreed with about the stirrups and about the shock cavalry, you actually in the end realized, oh, you made mistakes and you clarified this. But especially the whole chivalry aspect was on point. And now in this video saying that chivalry originally was horsemanship, but you actually say that really important now is the chivalry for the knight, the chivalry for the concept of the knight we know is about this whole being loyal, being sworn to a lord. If I understood it correctly. Maybe I made a mistake here. But you can of course then clarify this. But the thing is that, like I said, the whole being loyal thing and sworn to somebody is something you find everywhere, especially the loyal aspect. Being loyal or a good soldier, and this is what you said basically in your chivalry video as well, is something every army had. And I say it's necessary. It is necessary for the lowest part of the army to the highest one to be loyal to the cause, if you want to, so that the system can work. I mean, the contrary would be to be not loyal and just not obey orders and just leave and not fight. This is not what you want in an army. And this is why I say the whole loyalty aspect is something so basic. This is nothing you can say is especially chivalrous, because you basically made those two distinguishments. Like chivalry was at the beginning, the whole being a good soldier on a horse, While in the end it evolved more, well, got broader, and you had like, depending on who was talking, who actually demanded his knights to do something to be a knight, what it was to be a knight, even if it was more about being a gentleman or about being merciless against enemies or being religious, whatever. But this is the thing I mean. The later parts, where basically it gets so broad, you can't really apply here. This is also why I think you just mean the whole loyalty aspect here was so important. And like I said, loyalty was important everywhere, even an artisan thing. I mean, if you were a craftsman in a city and you had your apprentices or your employees, of course you demanded loyalty from them as well. They shouldn't tell your secrets. They shouldn't just steal your stuff and go, or just go to the competition. This is, even their loyalty is demanded. This is very basic for group behavior in humans, to be loyal. And this is, like I said, the army is just another group. That here there's maybe a more higher demand on loyalty, because it can actually get very ugly, maybe. But the point is that loyalty is such a basic aspect of group behavior. You can't apply it just here to say this is a distinct definition, because those points you find everywhere. So if I would take just your definition as I understood it and I explained here, I could actually call everything a knight. Like the soldier in the legion was a knight, the hoplite was a knight, the ashigaru in the samurai system in Japan, in medieval Japan, was a knight, because they were sworn, they were soldiers, they were associated with the elite, and they had to be loyal, they had to swear an oath, and they have to follow this loyalty thing. And people demanded different behaviors from them. And so this is why I think the definition just doesn't work here. And the next thing I want to say here is, this whole definition thing can be so tricky, because what do we actually think of a knight? And this is what you also said, but maybe you have to think about what other people could think about this. Because if you ask me, I tell out of a military perspective, like a high-end soldier or high-end warrior. I have even a differentiation between what is a soldier and a warrior. But like I said, I view it out of a military perspective. If you ask somebody like who views the term knight out of as a medieval English society perspective or social perspective, then he would say, oh yeah, knights or knights bachelors were like the part of the gentry, which was the lowest class of the nobility, and this is it. And this is, like I said, knights were the lowest part of English nobility, and actually the knight's bachelor would be like the one who just could bring himself as a soldier and wouldn't have own vessels under him. And then you had, like, I think the knight baron or so, which would be like the next level, which command knights bachelors, something like this. But you see, this is a very different concept, which evolved from like a military concept. But if you look into like German history, then the knight is more of a prestige thing. And we had the terms Waffenknecht, Edelknecht, which I describe in my Landsknecht Part 1 video, which just means like weapon servant, noble servant. And you wouldn't, in historical context, probably just call people knights who had a very high prestige or had those extra title of being a knight, which was, like I said, more of a social prestige thing. And probably soldiers who would be Edelknechts, so noble servants, but as well had horses. But like I said, this is now like the German historical perspective on it. And talking about perspectives, you also said a very big indicator of something can be called a knight is if it's a knight, if it's themselves called being a knight. You made this bit of comparison with the paladins and with the samurai. But actually, first of all, funny thing is, when Japan opened its ports again, or were forced to do this in, like, I think 19th century, if I remember correctly, informations and like forms of documentaries were brought back about Japan, about the history of Japan, because it was still in a very medieval state, like to Europe. And you actually, samurais were called knights for the understanding, same as like the battle monks were called battle monks and stuff like this, the same as the Tenno, we call the Tenno an emperor or an Kaiser in German, because those are understandings we have in our language, we could apply because it's close enough. And this is the same thing here for the samurai, and we often actually call the katana in more older sources a long sword or just a sword, and we often call the naginata a halberd. which I say, yeah, this is the closest thing we just had, or what people know to apply on this. And the same thing is here with the knight. The thing we just don't call samurai knights is more about fashion. We just like to be correct in this specific case. But the thing is, according to your explanation that it's a big indicator of it themselves called a knight, this would mean that that the German Ritter and the French Chevalier wouldn't be knights. You would then say that what you would basically said that only in England there was the knights. In like medieval England, just there was the knight, and nothing, nowhere else this concept was just solely English medieval. Which is actually fine, by the way. This can be how a definition can work, or a categorization can work. But normally I also think that you agree on that the German Ritter and the French Chevalier was basically the same as the English knight, in broad terms. And this is why I also say the Japanese samurai was basically just the Japanese knight. And yeah, but just to also mention the whole name thing, because really important in the end is if the concept or the function is the same. I mean, also castles are not specifically bound to medieval times, because a castle can be a military camp as a function, or a fortified like house, or fortified palace, not palace, but like where no nobles live. I just can't get the words right now. But the thing is that those concepts, those functions they serve, doesn't matter if it was called or perceived this way, is the same as like with the garrison camps or the garrison cities of the Roman legion, like Colonia was before and everything. They had fortifications, people lived in there was troops stationed, and troops were sent out to fight and everything to control the area. And this is, if you would take like a legion, such a camp of the legion, or such a fortified city of the legion, and bring it to the medieval times and give it a lord, he would use it as he would use a castle. Same thing if I would take a castle out of medieval Europe and bring it to like a Roman governor, he would use it as a legion city or a garrison city, because it just serves the same function. Therefore, it doesn't matter if you call it castle or garrison city or whatever, it's basically the same thing. They have different details and difference. To really illustrate this point, also in connection with the knight and everything, is another point about the soldier. I kind of mentioned this before, but the soldiers, we use this term freely throughout history, and you did it with your definition of knight, like a full-time soldier. But the thing is, a soldier is normally, what we understand about a soldier is state troops, so paid by the state, equipped by the state, trained by the state, has to serve the state full time. This is normally what we understand under soldier. The more popular means of a soldier, or the basic, not the basic, but basically what most people understand about soldier is just people who fought in armies, just people who had to fight against other people. Like I said, in wars and in armies. So this is why we call knight soldiers, or we call Waffenknechte soldiers, or the legionary soldier, or the hoplite soldier. Even I think the legionary, especially in its end phases, is of clearly really actually fulfill the soldier definition. But the thing is that actually a soldier, what we understand by definition, could not be applied here. I think it's still correct to apply it, because the core function of a soldier is to fight in an army, in wars against other people, and all those people did this clearly. Therefore, it's completely right to call them all soldiers. Like I said, therefore is the concept of castle knights, but also not bound to medieval times if they serve the same functions. Like I said, equites or elite soldiers in the legion or samurai all serve the same function essentially. And if I say knight, then basically I just mean this function in medieval Europe. If I say samurai, I mean this function in Japanese medieval times. So, and if I say Japanese medieval times, it actually doesn't even mean the same time frame as with Europe medieval times. This is why we say often this word before. We connect those words to really describe it even further. And I think this is actually fine to say knight just means a warrior, or a high-end warrior, or an elite, socially elite warrior, which were in medieval Europe. But yeah, that doesn't even mean that I'm right with it, just by the way, so they said about the video. But I think your definitions doesn't work, and we should really think and ask ourselves what we want to, how we want to address those things, and how it's even important, because the knight concept was very different in the time itself from country to country, as same as with chivalry was very contextual. So it makes it even sense to make such a close definition, or is it even just okay to make a broad definition, then clarify it even more with like knight means a soldier in medieval times, or a horseman in medieval times, and or whatever. But like I said, just this is my input on it, my opinion, my arguments, and yeah, would like to hear from you, Shad, what you think about my points, and of course I would like to see all other people say about what they have to say about this. So hopefully see you soon.